Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back here to today's episode of Intuitive Angling, and man, I really appreciate you guys coming by the channel to watch the video. Got a really good jig video for y'all today. We're going to be talking about why a living rubber jig, a live rubber jig, is so much better than the silicone skirt jig that most people use. There's no comparison whatsoever in this, guys, so I'm going to give you guys my opinion from fishing jigs for 50 years, why you definitely want to stay with live rubber jigs if at all possible in today's video. Also, guys, two quick housekeeping tips before we get started here. Just appreciate you guys enduring them there. Just like to invite everybody to please consider becoming a channel member here of Intuitive Angling. As a channel member, you get free videos or private videos every week that are not seen by the public, and some access to my email address for your fishing questions. Just go to my homepage and hit the join button for information. And also, I'd like to invite you to please check out my Fish the Moment lake map breakdowns. We've got all of our spring maps on the site now. Great resources to learn more about your favorite lake, so really appreciate that. Okay guys, it's sort of like full circle on this. This is my Blaukat throwback jig here, guys. This is what I helped design with Cumberland Pro Lures. This is the living rubber jig here. I'll link this in the description, guys, if you want to get some of my Blaukat throwback jigs. And hopefully after the video here, I'll get you guys enough confidence in it. You'll order a couple of them because you won't regret it. But this is the material. When I first started bass fishing back in the 70s, this is the material they used, living rubber right here. That's all they had. I mean, that silicone wasn't around. It wasn't until like the mid 80s before the silicone skirts actually came into play. Mainly, first of all, on the spinnerbait skirt, but then the jig skirt. And then they sort of took over. And once the silicone technology developed and all the multitude of colors that came in there, the living rubber jig sort of faded out for a couple different reasons. Number one is the silicone gave anglers more of a color variation. They were less expensive to produce because they're put on with a collar most of the time instead of just hand tied, with either thread or some type of wire. So they were cheaper to make and they were quicker and easier to make to use silicone. So over the course of the years, people just quit using the living rubber jigs, except for the jig masters, guys, the true jig masters that I learned from. And I never stopped using live rubber my whole career. It's like all of the old school super great anglers like Tommy Biffle and all the jig mentors I use, they stayed with the living rubber jig throughout the whole transitional period because they knew living rubber is a better material. Okay, now here is why it's better. First of all, living rubber, it does something that silicone doesn't do. The flat finish of living rubber like this, guys, when you put it in the water, it has a glow that the jig puts out on any color. It doesn't matter if it's a black or brown one or green, whatever. It has this unique glow in the water that can't be matched with silicone. Silicone does not have that same glow. And that is a huge deal as far as the strike generation. And second to that, living rubber has more action. It's more pliable. It looks more real in the water. It bends more. It breathes more in the water. And silicone skirts, a lot of them, you can see here, the nature of silicone, they don't breathe like that. They're a little bit stiffer. See how some of them are crooked right here. They hold form on like that if you put them in your tackle box. And they lay down, they don't flare out as much. Notice how this thing lays pretty flat against here, and that's because it has a skirt on it instead of a hand tie, which doesn't flare it out as much. So that's the main two things with that, is just the visual appeal of this, the visual look of the glow and the visual look of the more lifelike legs that the living rubber has. Now, the only advantage to a silicone jig skirt over the living rubber is you have more color options. And I will say there's one situation that I do use silicone skirts, and that is with some type of a green pumpkin or peanut butter and jelly look. If I'm fishing really clear water with a jig, a lot of times I will put a silicone green pumpkin skirt on it, and I will hand tie it to make it flare out a little bit more. But that's the only time is if I'm fishing a jig and water visibility over 4 feet or so. Other than that, guys, I will have a living rubber jig tied on all the time. A lot of you guys that may have been just casual jig fishermen, or you're getting into jig fishing and you don't know what to do, guys, just try it. Just get your silicone jig if you have it, and then get a couple of my throwback jigs there at Tackle Warehouse and see the difference. You will see the difference right off the bat. and you know, how these things look, guys. It just makes a huge difference. And like I said, I had the chance to get taught jig fishing by some of the best jig fishermen in the world. Terry Thomas, a famous local angler here in Missouri, was my jig mentor. Terry fished live rubber jigs the whole time that I was with him, and I sort of stayed with it. And also, Tommy Biffle is probably the next best jig fisherman I've ever been around, second to Terry Thomas. And Tommy Biffle's always used living rubber jigs back when he was at the top of his game. So anyway, guys, I'll put a link in the description, my Blaukat throwback jig, Tackle Warehouse link. They got 6 different colors there. You probably need all 6 for different water clarity conditions. And hope it helps you guys out. We'll talk later.